seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, guys? Xavier and Essam here, back with another video. And for today's video, we're talking about the Houston Texans, and we're talking about why I think Xavier Hutchinson was the steal of not only for the Texans, but for the entire draft and for like every NFL team. And when you see Xavier Hutchinson, you're going to say, hey, he went in the 6th round. He's probably not that good. He's probably just taking a flyer on a guy like that. But a lot of people were actually very, very high on him throughout the whole draft process, throughout the combine, throughout the college season and all of that and whatnot. And for some particular reason, he just ended up falling. I'm not really sure if it's due to concerns about his run blocking or his hands. And, I mean, he did kind of have some drops, some pretty important drops at that during some times in games, especially late in games. I remember seeing him drop one ball. I want to say it was against Michigan, if I remember correctly. It was like a 40, 50-yard ball. It was placed right in his hands, and he just dropped it. He was just not able to haul it in. And maybe it's just stuff like that, like concentration things. But a guy that's as talented as him, that has his type of size, I don't think he should have fell to the 6th round. There's some guys who had 2nd-round grades on him. There's some guys who had 3rd-round grades on him. But I don't really think anybody really had 6th-round grades on him for him to go in the 6th round. Maybe the NFL just didn't see him as a day one contributor. Maybe they saw him as like a project type of player. I'm not exactly sure, but he is 6'3", 205 pounds. So he has that size they really, really like in receivers. He has that wide receiver one potential, if you will. And on multiple different sites and on different YouTube videos I've been watching around, trying to learn more about Xavier Hutchinson, and on Twitter as well, I've seen a numerous amount of comparisons to guys like Keenan Allen, the way he plays receiver, like a bigger bodied slot guy. He could be a receiver one, but he's a bigger body guy that can play in the slot, kind of like similar to what Keenan Allen does, and I guess kind of similar to what DeAndre Hopkins did here in Houston at some times. He would frequently run in the slot, especially like on those 3rd and shorts or in the red zone as that bigger body slot guy, to make sure he's going to have that mismatch against a slot corner, linebacker, safety, whatever it may be. And that's the type of player Xavier Hutchinson can be. I've also seen some Jacoby Myers comparisons, which I feel like is more realistic. I wouldn't put any unrealistic expectations on Xavier Hutchinson, even though you can rightfully so be excited for a guy like him, but I think to put any type of unrealistic expectations, like, for example, some more comps that I also saw were, like, Michael Thomas, like, again, another big body guy, they can play in the slot, so kind of like a DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, also an Amon-Ra St. Brown. I've seen those type of comparisons, so that only alludes more to my theory that he could be like our big body in the slot on certain situations. Can be a wide receiver one in the future if he can definitely get better. He does, as I said, he does have problems with dropping the ball at times. His route tree, I feel like it's pretty good. It's not bad. It's not great. He has a solid route tree. You shouldn't really be too worried about him running any particular routes. I feel like he can run almost any route that you need him to do or need him to run. But yeah, I feel like he can be a great contributor for us, especially getting him in the 6th round. I don't think Nick's idea was to take another receiver really in the draft after Tank Dell. I feel like after Tank Dell, he was like, okay, let's just go by BPA. But I feel like once he saw Xavier Hutchinson on the board, especially that he traded up for him, I feel like he said, nah, this guy is falling a little bit too much, a little bit too far. We're going to trade up and we're going to go get him. And I feel like that's exactly what's going on in Knicks and the offensive-minded the offensive-minded coaches in Houston. I feel like that's what was going through their mind, and they said, hey, let's go get him. He also ran a 4.53 40-yard dash, which is with his size at 6'3". I feel like that's a pretty solid 40 time. I mean, it's nothing great. It's nothing out of this world. Like, for context, Nico Collins, I think he's 6'3", 6'4", around that same size. He ran a 4.4, so Nico Collins is faster than that, but to run a 4.53 at his size, I feel like it's pretty good. But to allude more, I guess, to the comparisons, as I mentioned, I've seen some guys compare him to Amon-Ra St. Brown. My personal comparison, I don't think he'll ever reach this, but it's just like the way Houston used DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like we could use him similar to that on 3rd downs, like on 3rd and shorts, 3rd and mediums, put him in the slot, put him on that quick out, put him on the quick slant. Use his he doesn't have the biggest frame, although he is 6'3", but kind of uses size to mismatch him against like smaller slot corners, safeties, and linebackers and stuff like that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe, what round did he go in? I think he was like in the 4th round, I want to say. So it's kind of similar. I mean, 2 rounds later. He went 2 rounds later than what Amon-Ra St. Brown did. So talent-wise, coming out of the draft, I feel like Xavier Hutchinson is kind of close to that. They do have kind of similar size. I mean, they have a similar weight, although Xavier Hutchinson is 3 inches taller than him. But yeah, I mean, Xavier Hutchinson, I'm pretty excited for him. Again, I wouldn't put any unrealistic expectations on him, but he is a very, very cool player for Houston to get, especially at the value that they got him. I mean, again, I didn't expect him to see him fall that much. A lot of people on Twitter and people involved in the NFL world, different reporters and whatnot, didn't really expect him to fall that far. But as Texans fans, we should be happy that he did. It gives C.J. Stroud another potential dynamic weapon. And it adds to I would say, a fairly lackluster receiver room. Now, as it stands, the receiver room is Nico Collins, John Mechie, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, Xavier Hutchinson, and I want to say I'm missing a name. Robert Woods. Okay, so that's our receiver room as of right now. So, I mean, there's no clear-cut wide receiver 1. I guess it would probably be Nico Collins to start out the season. So, there's no clear-cut wide receiver 1. I feel like if Xavier Hutchinson has the preseason and has a great training camp, I feel like he could potentially be in running for Nico Collins for that number 1 receiver role. Maybe not be the number 1 receiver, but like have that number 1 receiver role where he'd run, I think it's the X. He would run the X routes, so he'd be the X receiver for us, run those specific routes and whatnot. But yeah, he's a very cool player to have. What do you guys think about Xavier Hutchinson? For the value, I feel like you would have to love him. I mean, who wouldn't love what people said was a 2nd, 3rd round talent in the 6th round? Who wouldn't really love that? But yeah, let me know y'all's guys' thoughts down below on Xavier Hutchinson in the comments. And it's been Klutzy Entertainment, and hope you guys have a good day. Peace.